Trixie's Forest Retreat by Crow's Crow. Chapter 75. Replacement. Things had not gone quite as Trixie had planned. She wanted to make the pancakes because it took her so long to make them, which meant Rainbow Dash couldn't leave her just yet. It was only when she was actually in the process of collecting the ingredients that she found a flaw in her plan. She was alone in the kitchen anyway. As far as Trixie could tell, Rainbow Dash had stayed in bed like she had told her to, but that meant she was missing out on her all the same. Even if the idea that Dash was in the next room was a little better than knowing she was up in the clouds somewhere, Trixie hadn't realized it had practically the same result. "Trixie?" Rainbow Dash called out from the living room. "Is this going to take as long as last night?" Maybe." Trixie looked toward the kitchen door, then back at her small gathering of egg yolks, milk and flour in the bowl before her. She was nowhere near ready yet. Gah, is she on to Trixie already? Curse that impatient striking dolt. Trixie paused a moment to consider her choice of words with a smirk, but quickly was brought back to reality when Rainbow Dash spoke up again. "Yeah, I thought so. I really don't have the time for that, Trixie." The door opened, and Rainbow Dash trotted inside. She still had a head full of bed hair. Trixie was not sure how Rainbow managed to get her mane even wilder than usual, in her sleep. It also made Trixie consider how her own mane might look right now. Unfortunately, there were no mirrors in the kitchen she could sneak a peek at. More importantly, she had to think of something now that Rainbow Dash was showing a remarkable sense of responsibility. Maybe she got sick of all the cracks at her job? Gah, focus, Trixie. Well, what are you going to do then? Rainbow Dash shrugged. "I guess I could swing by Sugar Cube Corner on my way to work, and pick up something." Laying her ears flat, Trixie nodded. "That's fine." "Maybe Trixie will have pancakes ready for lunch. Will you be back by then?" Maybe it was better this way, since she was not even sure she could make lightning strike twice and produce another batch of actually edible pancakes. "I doubt it." "Well, I mean, yeah, if all we had to do was clear the clouds away, but a lot of them have to be relocated to other areas. It's a pain." As she spoke, Rainbow Dash walked up to Trixie and glanced into the bowl. "Whoa, you've been here a while and you're only this far." Trixie grumbled. "Oh, be quiet. Genius cannot be rushed. Besides, if Trixie had a magic she could have been done by now." Frustration seeped into her voice while she stomped a hoof down on the floor, and mumbled. If Trixie wanted to hurry anyway. Grinning, Rainbow Dash turned to face Trixie. "Ha, I knew it. You were stalling." Startled with the deduction, Trixie quickly shook her head. "Nonsense. Trixie was doing no such thing. What would be the point?" Good question." Rainbow Dash looked contemplative for a moment while she glanced around the kitchen. Her eyes lingered on the green teapot, then the gathered ingredients, before she settled on Trixie again. "I bet you figured if you kept me weak and hungry long enough, then I would blow off work. Something like that, huh?" She chuckled. It gave Trixie pause. That wasn't a terrible plan, all things considered. Better than her own at least. Except of course that Rainbow Dash was onto it already, so it wasn't going to work either way. Dash had boasted before that she was better at scheming than Trixie, and it was starting to worry her that this was lending credence to that idea. Has Trixie been underestimating her? She is so much harder to trick now. "So, what's next?" Rainbow Dash said. Trixie blinked slowly as she was brought out of her thoughts and looked at Rainbow Dash standing there, as if she expected something. "What?" Rainbow Dash pointed to the bowl. "What do you need next?" Trixie raised a brow, and huffed. "You doubt Trixie? She knows how to make pancakes just fine. What do you care? Go bust some clouds already." Rolling her eyes, Dash held a steady hoof out towards Trixie's face. "You think I don't know? Come on. Yeah, you know how to do it, but you can't do it, right? You said it yourself. If you had magic you'd be done already. Surprised, a brief flash of anger flared up in Trixie. Her magic handicap was not something they talked about, and to be reminded of it, more than she already was, hurt. Trixie can do it. She did it just fine yesterday, and you liked it. It took you like 2 hours. Not to mention made a huge mess. What, so you want to do it instead of Trixie? No, I wanted to help. The great and powerful Trixie doesn't need help. She can do this just fine without URL. Trixie froze mid-sentence as the actual meaning suddenly hit her. Wait. Wait, wait, wait. You want to cook, with Trixie? The sudden switch seemed to catch Rainbow Dash by surprise as she watched Trixie do a complete flip. Yeah? Trixie eyed Dash suspiciously for a moment. Trixie thought you said you don't cook? That actually sounded like a wonderful idea to her. She would get to spend time with Dash and show she was good for something at the same time. In hindsight, it was lucky that she fumbled the recipe so much last night, because she had to remake it often enough that she came to know the steps by heart. But I never said anything about helping some pony cook. Rainbow Dash made a dismissive gesture with her hoof, looking a bit embarrassed. I do stuff like that sometimes, like I help Fluttershy document the butterfly migrations. Trixie allowed herself a moment to conjure up an image that fit that revelation. Fluttershy she could easily picture doing something like that, but Dash? That was a strange idea, though if she really had helped Fluttershy with such a task before, then perhaps she was serious this time too. Trixie quickly shot her a smile. So what did you plan to help Trixie with? You don't know how to cook, right? True, but neither does your magic, does it? You just tell it what to do. It's like that. Rainbow Dash gestured to the bowl. So, what do you need next? 1 spoon of sugar? Trixie pointed to the sugar jar, and watched as Rainbow Dash quickly took a scoop and threw it in the batter. Though Dash did so with ease, Trixie knew her own attempts had littered the countertop with sugar before she'd managed it. She pushed the butter towards Dash. 3 spoons of butter, and pinch of salt. All right, while I do that, how about you get a pan ready? Sure. Trixie set out to retrieve one of the pans from the cupboards. She was starting to catch on to the idea. Dash would do the things for Trixie that needed a bit more finesse than she was capable of without her magic to aid her. Meanwhile, Trixie could handle the more coarse tasks and keep track of what needed doing. It was almost like having actual magic again, though much more pleasant company. While they worked on making the batter, Rainbow Dash was able to fill Trixie in on where Fluttershy actually was. Well, after we decided we should just let you rest, she said she was feeling cold. So she decided to go sleep in her own bed for the night. Which is fair, I guess, since she's not been able to in a while, huh? Rainbow Dash gave Trixie a glance, then returned to heating up some butter in the pan. Besides that, she's probably still asleep. She's not really used to being up that late. Trixie stirred the batter with a large wooden spoon while she listened. Oh, Trixie hopes she's not gotten sick. She will go check on her when we're done. Oh. Trixie will bring her breakfast in bed. Good idea. She'll like that. In practically no time at all, the smell of freshly made pancakes wafted through the house. It had gone fantastic, though Trixie had a little trouble getting Rainbow Dash to stop taste testing every time they managed to make one. Fortunately the problem sorted itself out once Dash had filled up a little, and she wasn't starving anymore. As much fun as it had been, they still had a schedule to keep. Once they had the 3 stacks of pancakes ready, it took barely 10 seconds for Rainbow Dash to wolf it all down, then she announced she was heading out immediately. Wait. Trixie abandoned her only half-finished plate to chase after Dash quickly. Fortunately, Rainbow Dash heeded her request and paused at the door, turning to face Trixie. Yeah, sorry to dine and dash, but I really gotta get going. Not so fast. Trixie didn't get to thank you properly yet. She paused in front of Rainbow Dash, feeling more nervous than she did for her first stage show. Thank me for what? We both made it, we both ate it. Seems fair to me. Rainbow Dash shrugged. Trixie swallowed. She was so close to Dash now, but it felt like it would be weird to just grab her. She kicked her hoof across the floor while she tried to gather up the courage. It's just... She hesitated. Come on, Trixie. You're already dating, of course you get to ask that. Trixie was just thinking, maybe it would be fun to go on a date. Huh? Rainbow Dash looked confused, though Trixie was almost sure she also could read intrigue in those gorgeous eyes. Go on. Well, it's well you know. A date. Like go eat something, see a play, something like that. Trixie could feel her cheeks burning up. She had never actually asked any pony on a date before, and her only consoling thought was that she knew Rainbow Dash was as new at the whole thing as she was, as evident by the sudden shift from cyan to pink in her face. That sounds, yeah. Hey, leave it to me okay. You already took care of this date after all. We ate something right? She gave a chuckle and motioned with her towards the table. It will give me something to think about while I'm pushing clouds. Trixie briefly looked back at the table, then turned back, smiling brightly. She nodded enthusiastically. This was just perfect. Everything was going so well she was worried she might still be asleep after all, but she sure knew one way to find out. Excellent. Oh, and one more thing. Trixie gave Rainbow Dash a seductive look while she leaned in, and kissed her. Thanks. For being Trixie's magic. Chapter 76. Remedial. After seeing Rainbow Dash off, Trixie closed the front door, and made her way back into the kitchen. Excitement coursed through her with every step while she did her best to stay at least calm enough not to knock anything over. She prepared a tray with Fluttershy's strawberry pancakes, some tea, and a few pieces of fruit. This is the best. The trip up the stairs was a little bit tricky, but by holding the tray in her mouth, Trixie managed it without tilting it too much. A few quick knocks on the door announced her presence before entering. The room was dark as always, thanks to the cloths covering the windows. It was not something Trixie had actually thought about before today. She supposed she could get rid of them, since it turned out she was fine when she woke up in the sunlit living room. Trixie set down the tray on the desk, then turned her attention to the sleeping Pegasus. Apparently she had failed to wake her up with her entrance. It was a rare opportunity for Trixie to actually be awake before both Pegasi. The last time had been their ill-fated trip. Watching the soft relaxed features of Fluttershy's face, Trixie smiled. It was a little strange to see Fluttershy with a neutral expression rather than alternations between smiling or frightened, but it was no less cute. Fluttershy snoozed peacefully, but Trixie could see her face was red and puffy, and she had the blanket curled tightly around herself. Oh no, it looks like she really is sick. Maybe Trixie should let her sleep for now? Suffering a moment's indecision, Trixie took a step away from the bed, and she considered if she really wanted to wake her up. Fluttershy never tried to wake Trixie, except that first week, and that had been incredibly annoying. Still, she couldn't just decide to give her cold pancakes. Trixie will just wake her up a little, and if she doesn't want any, Trixie will let her sleep. Fluttershy? Trixie reached out a hoof to the mare's shoulder, shaking her gently. Fluttershy? Him. Trixie? Fluttershy mumbled softly, half opening one eye to look at her. Apparently, Fluttershy was a fairly light sleeper. When Trixie thought about it, she already knew that, as she'd done nothing but wake the poor mare up when she tried to sleep last night. It made Trixie feel worse about it now that she realized Fluttershy had probably been sick back then too. Trixie kept her voice down. Good afternoon, Fluttershy. Are you okay? Hey, Trixie. I'm fine. She rubbed the sleep out of her eyes, and gave Trixie a once-over. Oh. How are you? You collapsed last night. Fluttershy did not sound particularly energetic, but Trixie had to be fair to her. She did just wake up. With a dismissive gesture, Trixie tried to look casual. Trixie was just tired. She's much better now. Dash said you might be sick, and, you do look a little ill. She motioned over to the tray on the desk. Trixie brought you breakfast, if you feel like it. Should she come back later? Fluttershy looked confused for a moment. Dash? Sick? After a brief moment, her eyes shot open wide. Sick? Yes, I was cold. Cough, cough, achoo. Maybe you shouldn't come near me, Trixie. Raising an eyebrow, Trixie stared at Fluttershy skeptically for a few moments, before she burst out laughing uncontrollably. Clutching her sides, Trixie simmered down enough to raise a hoof up to clear the tears of laughter clouding her vision. That was the worst acting Trixie has ever seen. Good one, Fluttershy. If you're well enough to make jokes, then Trixie is sure you are well enough for something to eat. Hold on. Trixie turned around to fetch the tray, setting it down on the bed with a smile and a feeling of pride. Strawberries, right. Fluttershy's face was colored scarlet while she weakly chuckled along with Trixie. That's right. Thank you, Trixie. She cast her eyes down at the tray of strawberry pancakes, seeming to take a great interest in it while she started on the meal. She didn't look up once. It felt great to see Fluttershy so absorbed in something she'd made for her. Though Trixie was concerned to see her precious friend look so heated, and worried she might be trying to downplay how sick she felt. Say, Fluttershy? Trixie was thinking. How about you stay in bed today? Just to be sure? Oh, no, that's okay, Trixie. I feel much better already. And I can't leave my animal friends alone after a storm like that. They'd be worried. Fluttershy picked up the mug of tea from the tray, taking careful sips. Preposterous. You are clearly not well, Fluttershy. Besides, you deserve a day of rest. Trixie insists. Fluttershy finally lifted her gaze up to meet Trixie's own. But, what about the animals? They know. Don't worry. Trixie interrupted, and beamed her most confident smile. Trixie will take care of everything. She knows what to do. It was true, mostly. She had watched Fluttershy do all the chores and tasks before, and she was fairly certain she could manage them for one day. In fact, Trixie felt as though she could take on the whole world today. Well. If you are sure. No, I can't let you do that. Fluttershy sat up straight, shaking her head. The last time we did something when I wasn't sure went really badly. Trixie gave an exasperated sigh. Come on, Fluttershy. This is nothing like last time. Trixie won't even leave the meadow. Unless the Timberwolves followed us home, Trixie will be fine. She paused a moment to consider how she actually felt about taking on a Timberwolf now, but she decided against it. The retrieval of her hat would have to wait a little longer. Fluttershy still looked unconvinced. I just don't think it's a good idea. It was clear to Trixie by now that Fluttershy had no intention of letting her do this after the last fiasco, and even if she did allow it, she would worry the whole time. Still, Trixie couldn't just let her run around if she was not feeling well. The most reasonable thing to do seemed to be to bend the truth just a little bit. Okay, Fluttershy, Trixie understands. She will find Rainbow Dash and tell her what she needs to do. So, you just relax, Trixie won't do anything. Oh, okay. Fluttershy looked a bit taken aback by Trixie's concession, but she didn't question it. Something else was clearly on her mind though, as she fidgeted with her hooves. Trixie. Speaking of Rainbow Dash, and yeah, you. Yes. Trixie smiled expectantly. With any luck, Fluttershy might agree to let Trixie help if Dash was there, not that she is, but at least that's only half a lie. Huh? Maybe it doesn't work like that? Oddly, Fluttershy had put her full attention back on her plate. She was even bent over so far that her mane ate her whole tray along with her face. She was even more soft-spoken than usual. What's it? Like? Trixie perked up in surprise. She could feel her face heat up. So sorry? Trixie, does not understand the question, she thinks. Cringing, Fluttershy shook her head. Oh, never mind. Just forget I said anything. Thanks for breakfast. But I better, sleep some more. She immediately turned over onto her other side, but completely overlooked the tray in her lap, which she sent hurtling to the floor. No, wait. Before Trixie could do anything about it, she heard the plate shatter and the mug rolling over the floor on the other side of the bed. She looked over at Fluttershy, shocked. It was completely unlike her to be so careless. Oh goodness. I'm so sorry. Fluttershy whimpered, and tried to get out of bed quickly. Setting her hoof on Fluttershy's shoulder, Trixie urged her back down on the bed. Wait, it's okay. Trixie will get it. Just relax, Fluttershy. She was not quite sure how to take the odd behavior from Fluttershy. Is she delirious or something? No, she was fine just a second ago. Fortunately, it did not take much to persuade Fluttershy to stay under the covers, and she soon curled up again on the bed, allowing Trixie to get to work on cleaning the mess up. Though she was distracted by the constant apologies from Fluttershy. I'm really sorry about this. Fluttershy mumbled again. For the last time, it's fine. It was beginning to get on Trixie's nerves. She lifted the last shard onto the tray, then rubbed a rag over the floor to clean up the remains of jam and tea. It's not like Trixie hasn't done the same. At least you didn't throw your food at your nurse, huh? Trixie shot Fluttershy a sideways smile. Finally, Fluttershy smiled lightly and shook her head. I guess not, but that was my fault too. While Trixie tried to figure out how to get jam out of the groove in the floorboard, mostly by rubbing the rag along it and hoping something would stick on each pass, her thoughts kept going back to Fluttershy. She knew something was not quite right, and not all of it could be explained by a cold. Fluttershy had gone quiet, facing away from Trixie. There had to be something that was bringing this on, and Trixie's best clue was the last thing Fluttershy asked for. Although it was kind of personal, and Trixie was not even sure if she really understood the question correctly. Still, it was worth a shot. It is nice. I'm sorry. Fluttershy turned to look at Trixie in confusion. Trixie thanked the shaded lighting in the room for letting her hide her embarrassment a little. How it, feels when Trixie is with her. It is nice. It was not exactly the most poetic she had ever been, but she wasn't exactly comfortable with gushing about Rainbow Dash to Fluttershy. Fluttershy looked away again, resting her head on the pillow. Trixie felt like kicking herself for making such a stupid assumption. Trixie just, thou. Just nice? Fluttershy asked, though she remained still. For a moment, Trixie was too dumbfounded to respond. Fluttershy had interrupted her. She knew it was just senseless rambling, but still, she would have never guessed. On top of that, she was actually asking about their relationship. It was not some silly misunderstanding on Trixie's part. It's a little, Trixie had been vague, but now that Fluttershy actually appeared to want to know more about it, she was not quite sure how to proceed. She is really asking, so, it's okay if Trixie tells her, right? But why would she want to know? Trixie gave Fluttershy a long look. She did not want to deny her one of the only things she ever asked of her, but it was still a little disconcerting to talk to her about. We stayed in bed for a while, see close together. Though Fluttershy did not say anything, Trixie could see her ears perk up straight, indicating she was definitely listening with interest. We talked for a while, and then Dash, let Trixie, retry. Trixie didn't faint this time. Trixie wished she had some idea of what Fluttershy was thinking. It was maddening to talk to her without any real responses to tell her if this was really what she wanted to hear, or why. Only barely audible, Fluttershy mumbled into her pillow. You what? Was that, like? Trixie felt as though she'd caught fire. What's kissing like? Actually doing it had been nowhere near as difficult as trying to even imagine talking about it, but the question itself set off a light for Trixie. Wait. Trixie's heard that before, that's the kind of question a curious foal might ask. When they get past the cooties anyway. Now that she thought about it, it was perfectly normal for foals to have questions like that. Even Trixie herself had wondered about it once. Usually answers like that were not sought with adult ponies, but with more experienced peers. Though Fluttershy was no foal, and she was certainly aware of reproduction. The week of visiting baby animals proved that. But that's different, isn't it? Just a bit of biology. If Fluttershy had questions, Trixie doubts she would have asked any pony. She's much too shy. Even if she asked Rainbow Dash, Dash wouldn't have known till, a few weeks ago. Trixie would have blushed at the memory, but she was already scarlet. Trixie raised her gaze back up to Fluttershy, who still was in bed, facing away from her. Did she get curious after? Well, last night. Is this Fluttershy's talk? So that means she's looking to Trixie for answers? No wonder she's so awkward. It was a refreshing thought. Suddenly almost everything was starting to make sense, except Trixie was not entirely sure why Fluttershy would ask her instead of Rainbow Dash. The idea that Fluttershy trusted her enough to ask that sort of thing, while it was obviously difficult for the shy mare, quickly helped steel Trixie's resolve to help her as best she could. It's, hard to describe. It felt warm and soft, but not fuzzy soft. It was also, moist, and tasted sweet, though that's probably Dash's sweet tooth. Trixie paused for a moment to watch Fluttershy's reaction. She could only tell that Fluttershy was still listening closely, and she had yet to tell her to stop. Okay. There's more to it than that. It's exciting, feels weird, but a good weird, and it's confusing. Trixie is pretty sure we're probably kind of bad at it, but it's fun. At least we avoided knocking our teeth together, so, that's good, right? Trixie gave a nervous chuckle. Flattening her ears, Fluttershy gave a wince. Trixie smirked a little. Sorry, yeah, that is not a pleasant thought. Moving on. After the Trixie made breakfast, Rainbow Dash helped. Can you believe it? She was actually pretty decent at it too, under Trixie's amazing management, of course. Trixie smiled, though she was briefly brought down by the thought that Dash would be gone the rest of the day. After that, Dash left for wondering what to do for our date. Trixie breathed a sigh of relief. Nice save, Trixie. Fluttershy can't know Dash isn't here anymore. D-date? Fluttershy shifted under the blankets. Smiling brightly, Trixie nodded with excitement, happy to share the good news. That's right. Rainbow Dash is going to take Trixie on a date. That's when two ponies go do something romantic together. Though, Trixie doesn't know where or what, but Dash will tell Trixie when she's, done thinking about it. Yeah, that's it. Trixie can hardly wait. Though we'd probably have to discuss when we do it. Fluttershy, to Trixie's great surprise, looked directly at her this time. It was difficult to tell in the shaded room, but something seemed off about her, yet oddly familiar. Fluttershy's tone reminded her of the uncomfortable talk they'd had about wings for some reason. I'd like to see that. The discussion that is. if that's okay with you. Huh? The one about the date? Sure. Trixie blinked. It seemed like a very odd request. Okay, that's all Trixie can tell you right now. She better go and tell Dash to do the chores. You get some rest, okay, Fluttershy? With that, Trixie lifted up the tray and after a muffled goodbye left the room. She's just curious. What's the worst that could happen? Chapter 77. Rhyme. Trixie pulled the front door shut, and slumped against it. There was no force on earth that could get her to set another hoof outside. She was utterly exhausted. Whose bright idea was it to make Trixie do all the chores? The meadow was as good as a marsh after that much rain. Trixie looked down at her muddy hooves and legs with a sigh. A bath sounded really good right about now, but she didn't want to drag mud all through the living room. Actually, Trixie would be fine with that, if Trixie didn't have to clean it up afterwards. Maybe she should just stand here till she's dry. It was not exactly ideal, but Trixie was more than willing to finally solve a problem by doing nothing for a while. She leaned against the door, and closed her eyes with a soft murmur. Her thoughts wandered to the lousy day she had had. Doing Fluttershy's work would have been a challenge to begin with, and to make matters worse she had been right about the animals worrying. The first animals that Trixie had tried to feed had refused to eat anything and just stared at her as if she was some strange trespasser. It was so unnerving that she had started to make excuses out loud. She even explained it was her first time, and that she was trying her best. Trixie felt like a complete fool, trying to justify herself to a bunch of animals. Strangely, once she mentioned Fluttershy had a cold, and that she was filling in, that seemed to placate them enough to start behaving like normal animals again. Since she had figured out the trick, she had to take a minute each time to explain the situation for every chore she tried to do. Most of the animals apparently understood enough of it on some level, except for one. Trixie grumbled, Angel. Huh. It must be an acronym for annoying no good evil out. The accursed little rabbit kept glaring at her, and made it a point to follow her around for most of the day to make sure she knew how much he disapproved of her presence or something. That was not entirely unexpected, as he often did that to her to begin with. Trixie could not believe that of all the animals to pick from, Fluttershy apparently went with him. Trixie bets he was a gift from Celestia or something. Fortunately he'd run off after a little while, though not for long. Apparently, he was feeling generous, because when he returned he had tried to throw things at her head. Trixie was certain it was no coincidence he consistently aimed at the worst possible place for her. She often wondered if the twice-damned rabbit was watching her, with his big beady eyes, almost as if he was accusing her, or telling her she didn't deserve to be here. And surely it wasn't odd if Trixie thought the rabbit's name to be no coincidence, right? She wished she knew more about animals. Just you wait. The first thing Trixie will do with her magic is turn your fur hot pink. She felt her lips curl into a smile while she imagined it. That was turning out to be a nice daydream. If she didn't know Fluttershy, for some inexplicable reason, considered that monster her pet, then Trixie would have happily fed him to the bear instead of the usual honey. At least she didn't have to deal with that long-eared rat anymore for a while. A sudden knock on the door shook Trixie out of a half-snooze, causing her to blink in confusion for a moment. This was new. The only pony that Trixie knew visited way out here was Applejack, or possibly Big Mac, if his sister felt alright with letting him come here and supervise again. However, it was not time for a new batch of apples yet. Trixie eyed the door cautiously, as if she expected to stare right through it. She did not like surprises, especially not the kind that Ponyville had for her. Relax, Trixie. No pony knows you're here. Just calm down. Maybe it's another friend of Fluttershy's? Composing herself, Trixie called out. Hello. Good afternoon. I have a special delivery for Trixie Moon. Oh hey. That rhymed. A female voice on the other side of the door giggled. But Trixie was not laughing. She could feel her heart racing in her chest with dread. No pony should know that name. Taking a few quick steps away from the door, Trixie did her best to take deep breaths. How do they know Trixie is here? Wait, it doesn't matter. Trixie just has to. Sushies does not live here. Now shoo. As she spoke, she inched over to the window to get a peek at her opposition. Before the door stood just a single grey-coated Pegasus, carrying a mill saddlebag. Her mane was styled, if one could call it that, much like Rainbow Dash's, except that it was blonde. She held an envelope up on one hoof, looking at it. Oh, but she said this was the address. Are you sure, miss? Trixie was not entirely sure what she was expecting to find. Whoever this was, she did not look threatening. There was something vaguely familiar about the grey mare, but Trixie could not place it. Maybe it's from... No, it couldn't be. After a moment of internal conflict, Trixie's curiosity won out. Oh, wait. You said Trixie? Hold on. Yes, Trixie Lulamoon. Oh good. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Pushing the door open, Trixie was greeted by a smiling face, but that was not the first thing to catch Trixie's attention. The mare's eyes were all screwed up, looking in different directions. Trixie stared at her in confusion, before she noticed the mare's smile faltering a little. Oh. Sorry, Trixie did not mean to stare. You had a letter for her. I'm used to it, it's fine. The mare presented a clipboard and a pen on a string. Despite holding the clipboard, she spoke with a practiced ease. Just sign on the dotted line. Trixie gave a nervous smile. Another rhyme? She signed the paper as simply Trixie. Oh hey, you're right. The male mare giggled while she tucked the clipboard back into her bag, then passed the envelope. Thank you, Derby. Have we met? Trixie could not shake the feeling she had met the Pegasus before. Locking her saddlebags, Derby smiled and shook her head. No. Well, not face to face anyway, but I've seen you before. You'd have remembered if we had, right? Oh. Trixie's show. Raising a hoof to scratch her other leg uncomfortably, Derby scrunched up her muzzle. The show, the Ursa, the pony back ride. Trixie winced a little. She really should have expected that, though the last one confused her. Wait. Pony back ride? Oh, you know. After you attacked that mare? Derby looked uncomfortable. A really big red stallion was carrying you through town. A vague memory of the trip from the hospital back home partially resurfaced for Trixie. She had not really been in the best state of mind by the point, but she was pretty sure she had not attacked any pony. Even if she had wanted to, there was no way she could have. They say that's Trixie? But she couldn't be. Derby shrugged her shoulders. I don't really know the details. Hey, now you're doing it too. That's another rhyme. Derby smiled, then took a step away from the door. Was there anything else, miss? This was terrible. She already had enough trouble just being blamed for things she could remember, now there were things she didn't too. The voice Trixie stirred from her thoughts, and she looked towards her bear of ill news. What? No. Thank you, Derby. Giving a quick nod to indicate she remembered correctly, Derby spread her wings. With an impressive feat of power, she actually managed to lift off, even with the heavy mail bags. My pleasure. You know, I was warned about you, but you're not as mean as they say. Well, see you. Goodbye. Trixie waved after the odd mailmare. The exchange had left her baffled. She had not been that nice to Derby, yet apparently it was still much better than Derby had expected, to the point that she even had felt the need to comment on it. Just what are they saying about Trixie? It was not a pleasant thing to think about. Closing the door, Trixie turned her attention to the envelope, grateful for the distraction. Without a magic, or dash, to assist her, It took significant fiddling with the darn thing to open it. Though Trixie supposed things might have been at least a little easier if she could use her hooves for the job, but she didn't want to get mud on the letter. Nervously, Trixie unfolded the letter. There was only one pony she could think of that would know to send her a letter here. Trixie swears, if Celestia is forcing her away again, she'll... Ponyville Hospital? Trixie blinked puzzled, and quickly read through the letter. Dear Miss Lulamoon, I write to you on behalf of, blah blah blah, heartfelt apologies, blah blah blah, physical and magical checkup, tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Sincerely, Nurse Manners of... Yeah, okay, whatever. Now that she got the gist of it, Trixie took her time to read through the letter a second time more slowly while she contemplated on what she was being offered. Apparently there were no strings attached, and she was simply asked to be examined. It would be good to have some kind of official word on how she was doing, and judging by the wording they may even be able to tell her when she could start using magic safely again. Still, Trixie was not thrilled with the idea of going back to that place. Her last visit had left a sour taste, which Trixie could not blame on the hospital food, considering she was never given any. Not to mention she would have to walk through the town again. Also, the unexplained usage of her last name put her on edge. If they knew that, there was no telling what else they knew, and she was being asked to come to a place they had complete control over. A slight grin played on her lips as she remembered an exception. Complete control? No, Trixie knows one Pegasus they most certainly can't. If she asked, Trixie was pretty sure she could get Rainbow Dash to come with her. Dash had proven she could keep her safe from anything, except from Dash herself. Maybe Trixie could even call it a date. Fighting ponies in an alley could be romantic, right? Chapter 78. River. A noisy landing outside disturbed Trixie's nap. She blinked slowly while she tried to remember what she had been doing, besides leaning against the door and dozing off. Oh right, the mud. Glancing down, Trixie was pleased to see the mud on her legs had mostly turned to sand. A few quick taps outside where? Without warning, Trixie's support suddenly gave way, and she literally tumbled out the door. It all happened so fast all she saw was a rainbow-colored blow holding the door, before she fell into the mud. Whoa, that's new. Are you alright, Trixie? Rainbow Dash bowed over her with concern. Taking a moment to examine herself, Trixie concluded she was just fine, but now her whole right half was covered in mud. She glared up at Dash. You fool. Don't you ever knock? The concern on Dash's face quickly turned to a grin, and barely suppressed mirth. I'll take that as a yes. She laughed while she reached a hoof out to help Trixie up. You were waiting for me, huh? Trixie was not. Not intentionally anyway. With a little help, she climbed back onto her hooves and looked down at her muddy coat with a grimace. Just great. What are you being so cheerful about anyway? Trixie thought you'd be tired after working all day, or if not that, certainly from thinking all day. That's easy. I had a really boring day, and you amuse me. Showing a teasing grin, Rainbow Dash motioned at Trixie's dirty coat. Hey, it's not all bad. At the spa ponies pay good bits for a mud bath, you know, or so Rarity claims anyway. She looked Trixie over for a moment, then looked at the door. Though, I guess Fluttershy wouldn't like it if you go in like that. A sinister idea sprung to mind, and Trixie put on her most innocent smile. Oh, well, Trixie has a great idea for how to get rid of at least half of this stuff. While Dash was still distracted, she lunged and wrapped her hooves around her, pulling her into a tight muddy hug. Gah. Hey, you let go. You're filthy. Dash struggled in Trixie's grasp, beating her wings to try to escape. What's wrong? At the spa they pay good bits for this. Trixie laughed while she fought to keep a hold of Dash. While the both of them were concentrating on their impromptu wrestling match, they forgot one rather important part of the sport, keeping one's balance. With a splash, both ponies ended up back in the mud. Dash sputtered and spit up a mouthful of mud. Blog. You're evil. That's it. It's on now. To Trixie's delight, it seemed Dash had already forgotten her reprimand the previous night, and was determined to see this fight through. Was there ever any doubt? Trixie crowed. She was already a mess, so it wasn't as if she cared about getting worse. What began as a fight to stay cleaner than the other, quickly devolved into one to ensure the other was at least as bad, or worse off. After an epic showdown that, in Trixie's estimation, might have made an equestrian mud wrestling record if any pony had been there to witness it, both ponies finally came to a stop. Due to the thick coating of mud, Trixie could not even open one of her eyes anymore by the time she rested in the dirt with Dash holding her down. Is that, the best, you have got? Trixie panted, exhausted, but grinning up at Dash. Ever the athlete, Rainbow Dash barely even looked winded. Farley's, I told you I'd come out on top easily. I've had more trouble helping AJ hold down Winona for a bath. Since it was clear to her she wasn't going to escape anytime soon, Trixie changed tactics and wrapped her hooves around Dash. With a huff, she looked the other way. You have merely won a battle, but the war goes on. Still. She gave her a sideways glance from her good eye, and shifted her tone to a more alluring one. To the victor go the spoils. With a confused look, Rainbow Dash tilted her head. Spoils? Oh, those spoils. Pushing herself up, Dash ran her eyes over Trixie for a moment, then stuck out her tongue and made a gagging noise. Yuck, you sure look like you've spoiled. Oomph. Glaring daggers, Trixie jabbed Rainbow Dash in the ribs, drawing a grunt from her. Trixie is not spoiled goods. Besides, it's not like you are any better, Dashy. Rubbing her sore side, Dash groaned at Trixie. Ugh, don't call me that. It's not cool. She gave Trixie one final surprise push into the mud, then climbed back onto her hooves. Let's clean this gunk off at the creek. Fluttershy would flip if we went in like this. Okay, I guess she wouldn't show it, but still. Trixie sputtered to get the muck out of her mouth. Blah. You know, you are really awful at taking hints. Rolling over onto her hooves, Trixie got up with a shiver. She felt at least twice as heavy while she trudged after Dash towards the creek that ran through the meadow. There was a small bridge built over the stream, ensuring the path to the cottage was free from wet hooves. Trixie had passed over it often, but it never really occurred to her to use the flowing water for anything. She simply associated it with yet another animal den, otters and weasels or something. Maybe Fluttershy's rubbing off on Trixie? To Trixie's surprise, Rainbow Dash hopped in without a moment's hesitation, chasing away a school of fish in the process. Dash waded in until the water came up to her shoulders, then ran her wings and mane through the stream, rinsing off and restoring her bright colors. It was a sight Trixie could watch forever. Trixie, are you just going to stand there forever? Blushing, Trixie snapped out of her trance and realized she'd been caught staring. She quickly shook her head. So shut up. Don't you have any concept of a moment? You are hopeless. Following her example, Trixie leaped from the shore into the stream. That's more like it. I happen to know you clean up nicely. Rainbow Dash smirked as she watched Trixie jump. Diving underwater, what Trixie had expected to be nice water turned out to be nearly freezing. She surfaced with a gasp in shock and tensed up all over, pressing her legs against her body to vainly try to shield at least some small part of it. CC cold. She stared at Rainbow Dash, who had not shown a single sign of just how cold the stream was. Why are you so fine? Trixie thought the water would be nice. Rainbow Dash looked confused for a moment, but soon she started laughing. She rose one hoof to her head while she composed herself just enough to reply. Are you kidding me? I'm a Pegasus. We don't get cold. Normal ponies would freeze to death twice over if they tried to fly half as high as we do. Tell Trixie sooner. She turned around to get out as quickly as possible, trotting back onto the grass. Dripping with cold water, Trixie shivered as a cool gust of wind felt as though it might have been the breath of a Wendigo. This is the worst. Trixie's G going inside. Rainbow Dash tilted her head while she looked up at Trixie from the water. Come on, Trixie, it's just a little water. Being cold is no reason to be such a baby. She grinned while she swam on her back along the surface, spitting up a little stream of water. The sun created a miniature rainbow in the arch. Feeling her eye twitch, Trixie glared Rainbow Dash. Oh yeah? Yeah, you sure went for the hair, half-fast last night. Coughing up the remains of the water, Rainbow Dash shifted to stand up straight with an embarrassed look on her face. Hey. That's totally different. I was really cold. Shivering, Trixie rolled her eyes, and turned away. Whatever. There was no way she was going to spend any more energy on arguing. She was already tired, and now she could add freezing to the list. At least she was relatively clean after that. All that was left was avoiding the mud puddle in front of the door. Trixie? Where are you going? Rainbow Dash called out from the stream. Under other circumstances, a dip into the stream might have actually been nice. If the weather had been hot, or if she was on fire. Now that she thought about it, perhaps it was worth remembering the next time she had a migraine. This was not one of those times. Trixie grumbled annoyed, but made no effort to respond anymore. She heard a splash behind her while she trotted back home. On some level, Trixie begrudgingly wondered if maybe she really was getting soft. Under Fluttershy's care she'd gotten used to being nice and warm all the time. Once she'd made it about a quarter of the way, Trixie's thoughts were interrupted when something wet and cold fell on her back. Startled by the chilling sudden attack, she looked to her right as just as suddenly Rainbow Dash had appeared beside her. It took Trixie a second to connect the dots, but as she craned her neck to check, it became obvious Dash had draped a soaked wing over her. Apparently Rainbow Dash thought it was just hilarious, because she was smiling all the while. Great, like Trixie wasn't cold enough. Rainbow Dash trotted alongside Trixie, keeping her accursed frostbite-inducing wing on her back the whole time. Is that better? It took Trixie off guard. Not so much the question itself, but the sincere tone. She knew how Dash spoke when she was teasing or being sarcastic, and this definitely wasn't it. Trixie let her gaze swap from Dash to the icy wing and back. Yes. She smiled warmly, leaning against Dash as they walked the rest of the way. Much better. Foggy clouds of steam drifted through the bathroom, as warm water poured into the tub. It should be ready in a minute. Rainbow Dash pushed away from the faucets, dropping back on all four hooves. This was a great idea, Trixie approves. Trixie looked into the tub, longing for the touch of the warm water. Breaking her gaze away, she looked back at Dash. Say, Trixie thought. Maybe it would be good to save some water, and share it. Huh? Yeah sure. Rainbow Dash smiled, then her eyes widened suddenly. Oh. That's right. Do you want to hear what I came up with? Wait. Actually, I had some questions I wanted to ask first. Blinking confused, Trixie took a minute to catch up. What you came up with? Trixie could feel her cheeks flush. Do you mean for the date? Yes. Wait, no. There's something Trixie has to tell you first. Fluttershy was curious, and she wanted to be there when we discussed this. Rainbow Dash raised a skeptical eyebrow. Trixie, are you sure you understood that right? Speaking of Fluttershy, where is she? I thought she'd be back from her chores by now. Trixie puffed up her chest. Do not doubt Trixie, she's sure. It's Ga. That's right. She quickly reached forward and grabbed Dash by the neck, pulling her in closely while she whispered conspiratorially. Listen, this is very important. If Fluttershy asks, you blew off work today and did her chores. What? Trixie, friends don't lie. Rainbow Dash apparently felt the need to give her another lecture. Fortunately, like everything Dash did, they were fast. Groaning, Trixie rolled her eyes. Yes, of course they don't. She knew Dash meant well, aiming to teach her how to be better, but she didn't want a lesson right now. But Fluttershy was sick, and she had so many chores. She did not think Trixie could handle it, and she would only stay in bed when Trixie said you'd do her chores. Rainbow Dash tilted her head, and gave Trixie a smile somewhere between amusement and wonderment. So, you did all of Fluttershy's chores, all on your own, even though you were hurt. Just so Fluttershy could rest up, and you want me to take credit for it. Finally Dash was catching on. Yes, Trixie answered without hesitation. Dash pulled out of the conspiratory hold. No. Trixie blinked in confusion. What do you mean no? Trixie just got through explaining this. You don't even have to lie, just say something like hey, Fluttershy, the chores are taken care of. That is all Trixie asks. You're missing the point. If Fluttershy was worried you couldn't do it, then now you've proven you can. But that means telling Fluttershy Trixie was lying to her. What if she gets mad at Trixie? Though Trixie did not truly believe Fluttershy was really capable of getting mad, she knew the kind of sad, hurt look that Fluttershy would give, and that was even worse. Yeah, she'll probably be upset. You should have thought of that before. But. Trixie stopped trying. The look on Rainbow Dash's face told her it was clearly useless. Trixie sat down on her haunches and folded her hooves over her chest. Trixie thought you were supposed to be the element of loyalty, not honesty. She grumbled. Rainbow Dash smirked and turned her attention back to the bathtub, dipping one hoof in the water to check the temperature. And I thought you were the great and powerful Trixie, not deceitful. She pulled her hoof out of the water and looked at it for a moment while the water dripped down. Huh, you know. On second thought, maybe you should check if it's warm enough. The remark stung. Trixie glared at Rainbow Dash, but she was not about to argue with her over it. If Rainbow Dash was not going to cover for her, then Trixie supposed her best course of action was to tell Fluttershy before she found out some other way. Trixie will check on her after the bath, then tell her. If she sees Trixie is a mess she might catch on too soon. Following Dash's advice, Trixie helped get the bath ready. It was not as though she really needed to do much, merely dip her hoof in the water and nod in approval. It's fine. So what was it that he wanted to ask Trixie? Oh, I was wondering. You see, I was trying to think of places we could go. But how do you feel about going into Ponyville these days? If you're not okay with it, I can work with that, but I thought I should ask you before I overcomplicate it. Once the water reached high enough, Dash took notice and turned off the faucet. All right, looks good. Are you sure you can't read minds a little bit too? Trixie was just thinking about that earlier today. She looked down at the floor. To be honest, Trixie does not feel safe in Ponyville. She spoke to the mailman that came by, who heard a lot of bad things about Trixie. Dash nodded sympathetically, reaching out to touch Trixie's foreleg. Hey, I get it. You really have some of the worst timing for visiting Ponyville. First time an Ursa comes, and second time a dragon. It's not your fault, but it does get ponies talking, you know. It's okay to be scared. She gave a soft grin, and chuckled while she spoke. Hey, even I'm a little worried what will show up next if we go into town now. Trixie lifted her gaze up to meet with Dash's, and just lingered there for a moment, drinking in the sight. For all the coolness, obsessed teasing and joking around, Dash really did have the caring side to her that shone through at the best times. But, showing a smile, Trixie leaned forward to walk Dash into a hug. You make Trixie feel safe. So, if it's with you, Trixie thinks it will be fine. Returning the embrace, Rainbow Dash blinked surprised for a moment while she listened. Trixie. Her lips wore a warm smile while she leaned in closer, eyes half-lidded. Feeling her heart skip a beat at the sight, Trixie mimicked the motions, forgetting all about how cold she was supposed to be. Their last kiss, just that morning, felt like it had been eons ago, and Trixie was eager to experience it again. She could feel the warmth radiating from Dash on her muzzle already before they even touched. Hey girls. Are you in here? Oh. Am I, interrupting? I'm sorry, so should I come back later? Fluttershy's voice, despite being soft and sweet as usual, had all the romantic effect of a bucket of ice water. It made Trixie and Rainbow Dash swiftly pull away from each other, and turn to face her. "Oh Fluttershy, good you're awake." Hey, Fluttershy. "No, it's, fine." Trixie gritted her teeth in frustration while she did her best to keep a smile on her lips. Lips that almost had met with Dash's. 5 seconds later. That's all Trixie asks for. She tried to remind herself that it wasn't Fluttershy's fault, and that she was supposed to be happy to see she was doing better. Still she had trouble shaking the resentment. "How are you feeling, Fluttershy?" "Oh, much better." Fluttershy's eyes widened when they ran over Trixie, spotting the remains of mud in her fur. "Trixie. Oh my goodness, what happened? Did you fall? Are you okay?" Fluttershy quickly came closer to examine Trixie. She ran her hooves through the mare's mane, moving it aside and checking for any bumps or bruises on Trixie's head. Rainbow Dash seemed to have properly recovered. "She's fine, Fluttershy. It's just dirt. I was a little rough with her, I'm sorry." She motioned to the prepared bath. "That should take care of everything though." With Fluttershy tending to her with such care and attention, Trixie couldn't possibly stay mad at her. She reached up to Fluttershy's hooves and gently brought them back down to the ground. Smiling, Trixie nodded. "Trixie's actually feeling really good today, so don't worry, Fluttershy." Fluttershy looked relieved, and took a step back, giving Trixie some breathing room. "Oh, I'm sorry. It's good to hear you're doing well, Trixie. I guess I was just worried since you two were gone all day." She gave a quick look around the bathroom, noting if anything was missing, then turned her attention back to Trixie. Okay, well, looks like you're all set. Do you remember where you can find everything, Trixie?" Trixie has it under control. Naturally, it was not the first time Trixie had used the bath. At first it had taken a little getting used to, and finding the towels had taken longer than she cared to admit. She'd since proven she could manage without assistance, though Fluttershy still insisted the door stayed unlocked at all times, just in case. "Oh, good. Just call out if you need anything, okay? The floor might be slippery, so be careful and—" "Fluttershy, I'm pretty sure she can handle some water." Rainbow Dash chuckled and shook her head. Blushing embarrassed, Fluttershy looked away. "Oh, right. Rainbow Dash? I'm sorry to ask you for yet another chore today, but could you help me, get dinner started? If you don't mind, that is." Rainbow Dash looked over at Trixie for a moment, giving an apologetic look. "Yeah, sure, Fluttershy. I'll help." Trotting after Fluttershy, apparently content to cover for Trixie at least a little bit. The door closed behind them, leaving Trixie to bathe in peace. Trixie was pretty sure Dash was only playing along to give her time to get cleaned up and have a proper conversation with Fluttershy. If she had to guess, it probably was her way of apologizing for bailing on her. Sighing deeply, Trixie climbed into the bathtub. At least the warm water was soothing. There will be a lot for Trixie to talk about at dinner. For the time being, however, Trixie was more than happy to let the warmth wash over her tired limbs, and think of nothing else for a while.